So like always, guys, I'm going to record this and I'll post it. I'll try to post it on social media and then in emails. And it just goes to a YouTube page where you can see all of the previous calls so that we can cover, things. I was just talking to Wes about how I was listening to the call from Neil Walter a couple sessions ago, and there was so much information, and it took me a minute to go through and like see what he was talking about because I'm a slow learner. I've never been one to be a quick learner, so I got to slowly bite it off chunk by chunk. But I want to get started. I want to say welcome to Cody Adent for jumping on today. Thanks for coming in and sharing actually a surprising perspective that I didn't really, I was worried about making the connection between Utah tourism and the housing market, but you kind of did the work for me, man. So I wanted to say thank you for doing that.
No problem.
One of the conversations I had with Neil Walter a couple of sessions ago was around, he made a comment that this is kind of a tourism and travel led recession. And being that St. George has always been a pretty big tourism town and historically not always the biggest market here, but in recent years, tourism and travel has been one of our biggest drivers of our economy. Almost, second or third to housing and construction. So I think it's important to have you on and let us know what's going on at the state level for Utah tourism and then what that means for St. George, because you're located here in St. George, right?
Yep.
And for those of you, for everybody who don't know who you are, I would love to give you a resounding, hey, this is your resume, because it's pretty awesome. But if you want to just tell everybody who you are, what you do at Utah Tourism, I think that's the way we can get started.
Yeah, so my name is Cody Adent. I'm the executive director for the Utah Tourism Industry Association. So we are essentially the lobbying and education arm of tourism for the state. So we put on the state tourism conference every year. We have a high school hospitality program that we put on for the students throughout the state. And then we are here really to inform all of our members of things that are going on statewide initiatives. Obviously with COVID, it's really been our job to make sure that all of our businesses are informed of everything that they need to know, from COVID guidelines to PPE to all the different state and federal programs that are available for people to take advantage of. And our state just had our special session last week, so I've got some updates for that with you guys. I've been in tourism for about 3 years. I started a management company that specializes in hospitality and tourism around our national parks called Vibrant Management with my business partner, Brett Dockstader, who is, his family has owned the Cliff Rose Lodge and Gardens for over 30 years up in Springdale, right by Zion. And so that's really what we specialized in, was in our national parks throughout the state with the different clients that we have. We do have some international clients as well. And then we've also, for the last 3 years, put on the Southern Utah Tourism Summit as we found a need for our peers in Southern Utah to be more involved in the state efforts. And so that was kind of our way of doing that. And so when the position opened up for the ED of UTIA, it was great to have an opportunity to step into that role and then to get some representation in Southern Utah, because typically all of our tourism efforts are focused on the Wasatch Front. So it's great to be able to spread ourselves out a little bit and have some representation down south.
Yeah, it's been great to have you and be able to talk to you, because we've met a couple of times, and we met earlier this week to talk about what the goals are for really having Southern Utah be an anchor for Utah, not necessarily be second to Salt Lake all the time. Driving businesses here is going to help drive tourism here, which will help drive the economy. So it's a lot of these things are interconnected. And I know you kind of have some key topics that you want to go over, and I made you a host. So if you want to share your screen and you can kind of go through it, man, I'll let you go.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, so I've got some topics I'll go over with you guys. Can you guys see that screen okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, so what I want to talk about today is go over the CARES Act and what the state has received for that, some updates on our special session, a rental assistance program that may have some value for those of you that have clients who own vacation rentals, the tourism survey to kind of give you the sentiment of where our business owners were with tourism throughout the state, and then also some tourism statistics as to how we impact the state. So what I'll start with is the CARES Act. So this is an important one. This is the Impacted Businesses Grant Program. So this is huge. This is $25 million in CARES Act money that the state got for a focus in tourism. So basically, it's like a buy one get one. You may have heard it referred to as Shop Utah. But if you guys have clients who are looking to buy vacation rentals or who already own them, this is a great program for them to take advantage of. The application process through GoEd will open on August 5th. So if you do have clients that are a part of this, you're going to want to make sure that they have those dates and they know where to go.
Hey, real quick, pause on that because I meant to ask you yesterday. The
Yes.
GoEd, are you going to? Is there just a GoEd website that they could do that? And you said August 5th.
Yep, August 5th. And I can send out that web address to you so you can share it with everyone on the call.
Perfect.
And then I'll be sending out a newsletter with all that information as well. But so August 5th is the opening for that to be able to apply. And so if they've got a vacation rental, they can do pay for one night, get one night free. The consumer will pay for the one night, and then the state will reimburse you for that second night. So the idea here is to incentivize travel throughout the state. So it's for Utah residents to get them out and about and traveling. So it's a really huge opportunity, especially where most of our vacation rentals are seeing a ton of traffic from northern Utah. So it's an awesome program for people to take advantage of. All of the specifics aren't laid out yet as to how much any individual business can get for the program, but it does look like it'll be a first come, first serve type of offer. So you guys are going to want to make sure to get that information out as quickly as possible. And then if you've got someone who's in the space of looking for a vacation rental, this is a great incentive for them to do so, as it creates a huge opportunity for them from a marketing standpoint. And all of this money, so this $25 million, has to be spent by the end of the year in December. So that doesn't give us a lot of time to use that. So we should see.
Well, at least the applications for it, I'm sure, will go quickly for those that
Yeah.
know and utilize it correctly. It's kind of like the small business loans that went real fast.
Yep. Same type of thing. So GoEd's been really awesome for all the different businesses that I have relationships with. We have gotten approved from every GoEd thing that we've applied for through the COVID crisis, and they do a great job of making the process pretty easy. So I don't think we'll see too many issues with that. The next one that I'll go over is the Cultural Assistance Grant Program. This one probably doesn't have a ton of value for real estate, but it's still one of the 5 programs that we got approved with CARES Act money. So I'll just quickly go over it. So it establishes a tax-exempt grant program administered by the Department of Heritage and Arts in consultation with GoEd to provide grants to organizations that provide a cultural, artistic, botanical, recreation, or zoological activity that encourages travel and tourism in the state. So $9 million for that. Obviously, for us in Southern Utah, this is something that Tuacahn will be able to take advantage of, and some of our other smaller institutions. So still has some value, but nothing that necessarily directly correlates to real estate. This one does, though. So again, for all of your clients who own vacation rentals or potential clients who might, this is for PPE, which is our face masks and hand sanitizers. So this is $5 million that's available also through GoEd for them to be able to purchase any signage they need, technology solutions, the physical PPE like your masks and your hand sanitizers. We also worked hard in here to get sanitizing labor costs involved. So if the cleaning of their vacation unit has an extra cost associated with it, when someone stays in it now to be COVID compliant, you would be able to apply for this grant money and be able to use that money towards paying for sanitation of their vacation rentals. So
Is this application already open?
this will also be August 5th.
August 5th. So translating that into real estate, as we're all individual business owners, just thinking of how we can use these signage, technology solutions, all these things, from a marketing perspective, we want to get out to our clientele what we're doing as real estate agents to minimize, what's happening in the world. We want to take advantage that if the funds are available, we're going to do it anyway, or we should be doing it anyway. So we should probably be applying for these things to make sure we can get reimbursed for it if the money's available.
Right. And what's great is them being grant programs is that it's not something that you have to pay back. And in conjunction with that, the Salt Lake Chamber came out with an initiative that is stay safe to stay open. And so it's just a pledge. And you guys as real estate agents, I'd imagine, could make that pledge for yourselves as well to show that you're adhering to all of the COVID guidelines. So I would recommend that you guys look into that as well and see if that makes sense for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so any questions on what I've covered so far?
No, it was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so the next program is the Displaced Workers Grant Program. This one, again, I don't know how much it directly will correlate for you guys, but it provides trainings for workers displaced due to COVID-19 by creating a program within GOED's Utah Works and appropriating money to USHE's Custom Fit program. It also appropriates money to DWS to create a dashboard to identify unemployment job opening trends to better match workers with job opportunities. So another $9 million to try and get our workforce back to work, essentially, which I guess would have a correlation for once people are back in homes, they're able to purchase houses. So something that's an important focus for the state as we work to get our unemployment numbers down and get people back out in the job market.
One thing that this might not necessarily impact us individually as real estate agents, I'm going to go back to the beginning of what really drove me to want to do this call on a semi-regular basis was we're the connectors are our community, right? The real estate agents, our business is our database and our ability to network with the people that are in our community. And this is the type of information that especially small businesses, sometimes they just miss it, right? Sometimes our clients and the people that we work with on a regular basis are missing the notifications on it, right? We get bombarded every day with things that we need to be paying attention to. So we can take some of this information as opportunity to let our networks and our database know what's available and what Utah is doing specifically to help our local communities. So as much as it might not have impact us directly as real estate agents, us being able to get the message out, I think is important.
Absolutely. And this is an important one on just the health overall for our state as we need to work. As I know you guys have all seen that our COVID cases have really increased, and there's been talk about moving backwards from where we're at now to orange. And then Salt Lake County came out with an initiative that it's mandatory to wear masks now. So we really got to do our part to eliminate this as much as possible. And so this creates a public information campaign to encourage healthy activity during COVID-19 pandemic, such as following health guidelines and not forgoing medical care, including preventative care, urgent care, vaccinations. So we got $1 million for that. The state has an app that's Healthy Together. And in that app, it allows you to put your symptoms in. And then if you need to get tested, it shows you where you can do that for free. And it allows you to check where you're at, and it also lets you know if you've been somewhere where someone has tested positive. So the more involvement that we can get in that, the better. I know that in Southern Utah, it's been much different than the rest of the state, but we've just got to continue to do our part, wear masks when we're in public, even though it can be uncomfortable at times. We just want to see our economy come back, and the more efforts that we can do to help that, the better off that we're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
That covers all of our CARES Act specific stuff. So the next thing I'll go into is a special session, unless there's any questions for you guys on that part.
We got a lively bunch today, man.
No worries. So the next thing is our special session, which took place last week. So our lobbyist is Des Barker, and he's really incredible. He and Vicki Varela, who's the director of Utah Office of Tourism, really worked their butts off in this past week, utilizing both of their skills to create an opportunity for Utah tourism to really survive and thrive. And so in tourism, we have what's called the TMPF, which is our Tourism Marketing Performance Fund. And just not that long ago, we only had $900,000 as a state to be able to spend to market for tourism. And at that time, our peers next door in Colorado had like $30 million. So we were well behind where our other states were in our ability to market ourselves. But through the work that Vicki and her team at the Utah Office of Tourism have done and our different legislators, we've been able to grow that TMPF all the way up to $24 million. And the legislation this year had to cut our state budget of $850 million. They had to cut $850 million out of our $20 billion budget. So we knew that we were going to see big cuts to the TMPF. At some points, it looked like it was going to go down to as little as $0. And we would have no money to market ourselves either in-state or internationally. But through the work that Des and Vicki's team have done, we were able to just see a 50% cut, but then they were able to replace that with $12 million in CARES Act money. So we're essentially whole. Our goal was to try and not go down to less than $18 million in this fund, but we ended up getting $23.4 million. So almost exactly to where we would normally have. And the reason that's important, as you've got clients looking at vacation rentals or even just bringing in new people to the state, what we know is that when people from other states come and visit Utah, that's what creates the opportunity for them to want to live here. So the big win for us here with this, specifically to real estate, is that it allows the Utah Office of Tourism to continue its marketing plan as it would have, which will allow for our vacation rentals to have success, and also to bring in new individuals to the state who obviously, once they come and see how amazing Utah is, they want to move here. So this is just a monumental win, something that we're going to bring back as well as our Mighty Five campaign. So we started that campaign in 2013, and it was the most successful ad campaign in U.S. history. At times, there's speculation that it was too successful, as there was certain emotions of potential overcrowding in our national parks because of this program. So we kind of turned the faucet off in 2018, and I've seen a little bit of a dip in tourism. But now, given the pandemic and where we're at with travel, the Utah Office of Tourism is going to return on the Mighty Five campaign. So we're going to see a huge increase, especially in Southern Utah, with most of the national parks residing here. So it's just a really huge win for all of us, and for our economy, and for what it means for vacation rentals and potential new people moving into the state.
Does anybody have any thoughts on how, tourism? Because I think there's a big coalition of lifer, St. George, Washington County residents that don't want to see that tourism grow. They don't really want to see a big flood of people coming into St. George and moving here. Does anybody have a perspective on that? Do you think everybody who's on the call, are they opposed to that growth, or do we see that as probably not the best scenario? I'd be curious.
Can I chime in?
Of course you can, sir. Always.
What's up, guys? Hey, let me video in. Hey, guys. Hey, Cody, thanks for coming on, man. Amazing.
Of course.
I was born and raised here. I'm 44. I think it's a super catch-22 for a lot of people, because I actually think, to Robert's question, there's actually two groups. So there's the transplants, and then there's the locals. And so transplants are traditionally the most vocal, which is funny and ironic. But, it's definitely NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard. And we came in, we want to chain the gates, and we don't want you to come in. But what happens is, and I hope this will be like a balanced perspective, what locals do is they go, well, then go back to California. But that's not a helpful sentiment either, right? So, because we can't send them back to California, we can't stop the growth. So now I think you're also seeing a group of locals. So that's group one, a group of locals starting to say, geez, man, like I remember how it used to be, and it's not the way it used to be. And there's been an infiltration of a lot of things that, of course, we don't love. And the growth's fine until everybody's ideals and ideology is challenged, Yeah. And it's really great today. I'm looking at Town Square and Wells Fargo and First South out my office window, and I don't see any riots outside. It's pretty quiet downtown today. It's really quiet.
So a lot of us want to keep it that way. We want to keep it that
right.
way.
That's what I'm saying. And we talked about this on the radio program that we put on yesterday. Like, pretty quiet downtown. And how do we maintain that? So again, you have the outsiders that move in, which are a lot of you on this call. Thank you for coming to KW. I'm actually an owner in the company, and we're glad you're here. And I want you to keep coming here. That's how I live. And then, but there's a lot of but we don't want anyone to come in behind us. And at the same time, we can't have locals go, then get the hell out of here, because that's not helping, right?
Right.
But I do think, Robert, there is a sentiment that's growing with real locals, like, oh my gosh, do we lose? I joked yesterday, which small town do we have to move to next, right? So I hope that's helpful. That's my perspective.
Well, and McCrae and I have talked about this a little bit, and I was actually talking to Mitch Danzy, who's the director of developing Desert Color, who will be on the next call. So not this, and obviously not this next Friday, but the Friday after that. So every other Friday. Mitch Danzy, and we were talking about how along those lines of that feeling, how can we as a community of people that are already business owners here take advantage of the growth that we're having and be the leaders in the direction of how the county and the cities that we have evolve, because it'd be really easy for big businesses and outlying areas to come in and overrun the small local businesses that have been here for a long time. So I would like the opportunity of having business leaders come together that are all here in St. George and figure out ways that we can take advantage of the growth that inevitably is going to occur whether we like it or not, so that the locals can still stay really at the forefront of driving policy and growth in the way that we want to see it, and rather than have it imposed on us. So that's my perspective on it. But Cody, please continue, man.
Yeah, so this is one that I wanted to share with you guys. For those of you that have clients with vacation rentals, this is the Go Ahead Commercial Rental Assistance Program. It came out May 6th. I'm not sure how much funding remains, but there was $40 million through Go Ahead that was a part of this property rental assistance. And so if people have vacation rentals and they've created a business where they're paying themselves rent for their mortgage, then this is something that they could apply for, where they could at least get a little bit of relief. So you have to have a current lease on a commercial property in the state. So again, if they have a lease set up where they bought their vacation rental, a business owns it, and they're paying that business rent, then they would be eligible for this program. They'd have to claim Utah as their principal place of business. They need to be in operation with fewer than 100 employees, which of course for any vacation rental they would be. Demonstrate at least a 50% loss of gross monthly revenue after March 1st as the direct result of COVID, which I think most vacation rentals would be able to illustrate that, and not received funds from the COVID-19 Agricultural Operation Grant Program, which I don't think that they would. So definitely a program worth sharing with your clients. Again, I don't know for sure if there's how much or if anything is left in this program since it's been out for a little bit. But I can say that for the different businesses that we have, we were able to get them all approved through this program, and it was pretty easy to go through the process. So definitely one that's worth looking into for your clients. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a survey that we had Entrada Insights do for us right in the very beginning of COVID to get a feeling of where we were at overall for tourism within the state. So we had 489 people take the survey, which were all business owners or people involved in tourism throughout the state. So it talks a little bit about the decline that we saw in March when COVID happened, a little bit about what our future perception is, and then also I think the most important thing is where people are at from a cash situation. So when we look at the results, the suspension of non-essential business activity adversely affected tourism industry in March. So 51% had a decline in gross business revenue during March of 2020 compared to the year before, and 37% decline in number of employees during March 2020 compared to the prior year. So tourism as a whole, I think you could argue is the most impacted industry of all of them. And so we're starting now to climb out of it a little bit, and we're a little bit ahead of the game here in Southern Utah with what we have to do outdoors and then with our national parks, but we're still seeing huge losses in our metropolitan areas with all of our convention business and our midweek business. And as a whole for the state, we're only at about 30% occupancy. We're generally right now as a state, we're probably more around like in the 70% range. So we still have a lot of making up to do. The majority of tourism businesses expected declining gross revenue through the rest of 2020 and some into 2021. Some 14% expect business revenue to flatten or increase, and 15% are uncertain. So again, majority of our businesses expect to continue to see a decline for the rest of this year and even into 2021. I think what's really going to be indicative of 2021 is what happens in the fall. There's conversation about a second wave of COVID with flu season coming around. And I think really we'll have a better idea of what our 2021 season looks like come the fall time. So it's really hard to speculate where we're going to be at with that now. And so we've really just got to wait and see if there is a second wave. Any questions on this part of it at all?
No, it seems like that'd be a pretty, it's pretty understandable that this is kind of what the numbers are.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's our reality. This is the most troubling of everything. So this survey was done in March, as I said before, and half of our tourism businesses having enough funds to keep their businesses going for only 60 days. So only 15% can sustain operations for more than 6 months. And so again, this just talks to the devastating impact that's happened to tourism. And you can see where a majority of our businesses fall into that space where they can't make it past the 60-day mark. There's been some more CARES Act money that's come out, and people who have gotten PPE money since this survey was taken. So luckily those businesses have gotten a little bit of relief, but most of the PPP loan money originally was meant to last for 8 weeks, even though they have extended it to a 24-week period now. But for those businesses that brought people back on, and plan accordingly for the 8-week period, their money has ran out either this week or the week before. So certainly a scary and troubling time for our businesses, and there just hasn't yet been enough relief to really help a lot of them get through. So we're still in the midst of working through that. 9 out of our 10 tourism businesses have adopted new safety and health standards amid COVID-19. So social distance, mask, deep cleaning, disinfectants, eliminating some business offerings. So we've got some properties that have closed their restaurants. Most of them aren't doing stayover service. So if you're staying for multiple nights, it's just going to be cleaned when you get in. And then when you leave, they won't come in your room in the middle. A lot of properties are waiting 48 hours to rent a room after it's been rented again. So the businesses are making the changes that they need within our industry to create that consumer confidence. And then I talked a little bit about the Stay Safe to Stay Open initiative that the chamber is doing for the state. And then there's also the Healthy Together app. So the state is really doing a great job and doing everything that they can to create a new normal for us and reactivate the economy. But there's just a lot of work ahead of us. And of course, all of this comes with an expense. So it's been really great to see that $5 million in CARES Act money we have for PPE. So that way it can help some of these businesses with these costs that they didn't have before. This talks about tourism confidence. So the 12-month tourism business confidence is low, but an upward trajectory for the next 3 years. So concerns about the COVID-19 recession is evident through tourism business confidence. Only 8% were confident for business revenue growth in the near term. Tourism business confidence increases to 45% in the medium, and pessimism in contrast drops from 63% to 17%. So I think that what we're seeing is, as a whole, people believe that in time we're going to get back to where we were. I'm a big believer with the Utah Office of Tourism turning on the Mighty Five campaign again. That's going to play a huge part in us getting back to what we saw before. And I think with what the state has to offer and where we're such an outdoor centric state and we have so many activities both in the winter, spring, and summer to get people outside, that those people who had international vacations are not able to go on, we're going to see them going and visiting our national parks. And people who had metropolitan vacations, I think we're going to see them coming to our outdoors. The key is we just got to make sure that they're spending money and it's not just they're packing food from their house and camping outdoors. We need to get them in our restaurants and in our shops and at our hotels. And so that those are the kind of things that we've been working on. This just gives you some statistics on tourism and the role it plays throughout the state. So this is the statistics for 2019. So $9.1 billion in overall traveler spending, 1.23 billion total tourism related tax revenue, and over 144,000 tourism related jobs. And the big one that's important, I think, for you guys when you've got new people moving in from out of state, something that you may not know and that they certainly wouldn't know is that tourism creates a $1,375 tax relief per household. So you wouldn't necessarily see it, but on everyone's tax returns, they're getting between $1,400 and $1,500 back in tourism tax relief. So that's a really big win and a huge contribution that tourism plays for all of our residents throughout the state.
I think these are important numbers. This is one of the things that I think goes understated is when we see the policies and things that are being implemented at the state level. These numbers are partly the reason why there's hesitation to just shut off the valve of tourism and say nobody's allowed in the state, right? When we look at what these numbers represent, it's an important part of our greater economy. And then even more as we get hyper focused into Washington County, there's a lot of money that we would be missing out on if we didn't keep our businesses open. And so I think I'm reiterating what Cody said a couple of times: stay open, but stay safe, and going to the extent that we need to keep the businesses open, I think is really important.
Yeah, well said, Robert. Thank you for that. And so again, I am the executive director for the Utah Tourism Industry Association. We would love for when you guys have people buying vacation rentals for you to let them know about who and what UTIA is. We'd love for them to be members. It's really affordable. Our industry association is completely contingent on our members. It's the only way that we survive. And so what what we do is we are the umbrella organization, and we advocate for Utah's visitor economy. We strive to deliver exceptional value to our members, offering a variety of member-driven public policy initiatives, business networking opportunities, marketing programs, and educational offerings to help members and the tourism industry succeed today and in the future. And we are a 501c6, so we are a nonprofit organization, and we're just really here for the greater good of tourism within the state and allowing us to continue to move forward. So if any of you have any questions for me, here's my contact information. I'd be happy to talk to any one of you guys about what people who are buying vacation rentals need to know, or what information is relevant for them to have, or anything else on the visitor economy. So it also looks like I put my number wrong. It's 6867, not 7867. So I'll send that to Robert so we can send out an update, but that is the correct
6867 6867. Okay.
Yep, 680-6867. So bad error there on my part. But if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer that for you guys. But I really appreciate the time to be on the call and share some of this information with you guys. And I hope that your business is seeing success, and I hope that you guys haven't been overly impacted by COVID, and you guys play an important role in our economy. So I appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. If you can shoot me back over the host powers that be. I know you might have to get going as well. So if you got to jump off, I appreciate that. Really, this is a big piece of what our call was going to be about today, was tourism and what that means for us at the housing market level. I was going to recap some of the things that we talked about in the previous calls. So I have kind of those listed here. Does anybody have anything specific they'd want to talk about, or they're interested in knowing, or have any questions for Cody while he's still on? Nope. Sometimes people fumble with the mute button trying to get to it. Okay, so if you have any questions or anything you want to drop in the comments, go ahead, and then I can touch on those. Again, thanks Cody for being on, and stay as long as you need to, or if you want to hear more. Couple of things I wanted to recap. Brandon Hansen was on in our last call, and I was going to go over a couple of those highlights of what he talked about. One of the key pieces, and I think this is brought up in some of the things Cody was saying, is that we're still in the eye of the storm. In Cody's presentation, he talked a little bit about being the consumer confidence over time going down, or going back up. We're in the short run, we're not as hopeful about the outlook, but in the long run, we're much more hopeful about what's going on. I think that's kind of a human nature thing to do as well. And Brandon really wanted to drive home the fact that we're still kind of in the eye of what's going on. We don't have enough data to really be able to scale out what the fallout of some of these things are going to occur. From the lending rules, his assumptions that were going to be that mortgage insurance was going to double over the next 12 to 18 months, which could make FHA really a safe haven for buyers and keeping demand rolling. And interest rates are just going to stay low. And that policy comes from both Neil Walter, the call before that, and Brandon Hansen reiterating that on the call last week, is interest rates really are projected to stay low. It's one of the key pieces that the government can do to help keep demand driving forward, because the housing market is going to be, as Neil stated, the canary in the coal mines. Is if the demand starts to fall off, we're already in low inventory. People aren't really wanting to sell. So we're driven by a builder market. The more inventory we have to build, the better our housing market's going to go. But if demand starts to tail off, that's going to cause a problem. And the best way to drive that demand is to keep interest rates low. So if you're having conversations with your clients, I've heard several times from specifically my clients saying, well, don't you think interest rates are going to go back up? Really, we can kind of project 12 months out. We're a slow moving industry. If anybody kind of disagrees or wants to chime in on that, our industry definitely goes at a slow pace. So it's pretty easy for us to forecast out based on the indicators that we have right now with demand and pricing and absorption of homes, that for the next 12 to 18 months, we're in a really good position with low interest rates and prices continuing to appreciate. It's definitely a positive outlook, but we're still in the eye of the storm. There's a lot of data that we just don't have or will have to know what we're going to do. Anybody want to comment on that? One of the other thing was credit availability that Brandon Hansen talked about. And I think it goes right along with what Cody was talking about with the availability of the government to give out funds and loans and grant programs. There's still a lot of credit availability out there. And with that credit availability, the banks are going to be able to continue to issue loans and not have to tighten the strings as much as they did right when March hit. We've seen some changes in loan qualifications, especially HELOCs. I shopped a few HELOCs just to see what that market looks like. Interest only payment type HELOC loans have pretty much dried up. There's some banks that are doing them. They're really going to an 80% loan to value ratio versus a 90%, which is historically for HELOCs. And if there's lenders on, I'd love to hear your take on that as well. But credit availability, I think, is still strong, which is going to help us keep rolling. And Lori Burgess last call was mentioning about her Tonnequint, no, it was 2 calls ago, Tonnequint development. She's with Quality Development, was touching on the fact that really cash buyers are out there buying land and property. And it's not just out of state buyers, it's actually local buyers as well. We are having a huge increase in demand from out of state buyers. However, there's a lot of cash that's still coming into our market. So I mentioned this on my team meeting on Wednesdays. We got to, as realtors and as housing market leaders, we kind of need to make hay while the sun's shining. And demand is really incredible right now. We need to take advantage of that. If agents are saying, hey, my business is slowing down, I'd be curious as to why. Only because I think if you were to talk to the top agents, at least the top 10% agents, most of them have more business than they can probably handle at the moment. They're really going after ready, willing, and able right now buyers and sellers, because that's where it's at. Anybody have any comments on that? Last thing was Neil, commentary on building. I touched on it a little bit. He was mentioning a couple sessions ago that we're only about 60 to 65% of the building permits and the home starts that we were in our peaks back in 05, 04, 5, and 6. So we're really, from an inventory perspective, we're falling behind the demand on building new inventory. Our consumers, the people that live here and work here, are staying in their homes longer now than they ever have. We're up to about 9 years of owning a home, rather than really at the bottom, it was around 5 to 7 years. So we've really ramped that up to 9 years. And because inventory is staying low and demand staying high, prices will continue to increase. And in a couple of weeks, we'll have Mitch Danzy. It looks like Mitch was able to jump on a little bit right now, but we're going to talk about Desert Color in the development, and also how important of a role are those big developers, national developers, are going to play, what that role is going to play in our economy over the next 12 to 18 months. If those big housing developers come into town, that's going to mean good things for us. We don't want appreciation to get out of hand. We need to build more homes to keep up with the demand. And if appreciation values get away from us, that's when we start to look at a real bubble. If we're going to talk about what a bubble looks like, it's where the value of the home doesn't match what actually it should be because of the market. And if we can build more houses and slow down that absorption rate and slow down that appreciation, that's actually better for us, rather than keep on this train that just keeps accelerating. Unemployment is something we need to watch. But I'm looking forward to the call in the next couple of weeks to talk to Mitch and Desert Color. And if anybody else has anybody they'd like to hear from, please let me know. But that's about all that I have for today. Kept it to a 40-minute call, which I think is great for me anyway. Anybody else have anything you want to touch on?
How many building permits did they pull last year? Does anyone know the number? I don't have it. Southern Utah always gives it to me.
I can look it up.
Would you please?
Yeah.
Because, man, you guys are quiet.
Everybody's always
Does everybody
quiet.
need a friggin' reg bull? Like, well, I don't know what's going on. You know,
I'm on
it's
this
like
call. That's why I'm juggling a bunch of stuff.
So, Bill, this is really fun trivia, though. McCrae's like, Mom, leave me alone. So, literally, leave me alone, Mom. This is classic. So, in 2000, while he's pulling this number up, in 2005, you guys, do you realize 3,500 building permits were pulled in St. George? In 2009, 474.
Yeah, in the whole year, right?
In the whole year, we went from 3,500 in 2005 to 474 in 2009.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The one we backlogged, and I'm just curious about what the final number was last year. What do you got, McCray? Anything? Mitch always sends it to me, Larson, but I don't know. I can't find it right now.
He'll pull
But
it
it's
up.
a fraction. It was like 2,200 or something.
Somebody else was trying to talk too. I couldn't see who it was. Was it Shannon?
I was.
Shannon.
It's like
Can you hear me?
2261, I think.
Yeah, I can. These guys
We
are
hear ya.
talking. Susie, they're over
Hey,
talking.
can I break in?
Yeah, go for it.
This is Susie Appel,
I got you.
and I wanted to ask all of you to please vote in the gubernatorial primary. And I would ask you to do your research and vote for the candidate that is most likely to look at the economy and allow our local government to determine how we want to react the next time we go through this process and they close us down. So that's my little request today. Please vote before June 30th.
I love that. I really appreciate you jumping in and saying that, Susie. I really do. I muted these knuckleheads that were talking over you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But I'm pretty good at screaming when I have to. So there you have it. Thank you.
It. I think that'd be a great thing to do, Vardell, too. I think is put on Facebook a couple of times, kind of a get out the vote campaign. And I really encourage everybody in our industry to do the same thing, do our research on what's going to help the local economies. We're all business owners. It's going to be important for us to be able to have that power. So, Susie, I completely agree. Thank you for bringing that up.
Jeremy,
we have actually put that out a few times.
Yeah.
Along with the census. Those are both really important that we get involved with.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you got, McCray?
I was just going to say, it's at 25. This is for all apartments, condos, townhomes, single family, 2555 last year.
Yeah, so 1,000 less than that peak year.
And does anybody remember what Neil said we need every year just to keep up with the projected population growth?
2,700.
2,700. So last year there's 200 homes that we should have built that we didn't. And that's that just they either go into rentals or they go up to Cedar City or they decide, hey, maybe we can't make it here, and they can move somewhere else, right? We need those houses, we need those home starts. I remember when I first got into the business, Chantry was discussing that, right? Really at the time where things really started to kick it up in 2014 and 15. And we haven't ever really caught up to what we need. And that's been fascinating for me to watch, is the home starts have just never been enough.
Yeah, that's the thing, is we are underbuilt.
Yep.
Well, and there's a dynamic, you guys, that's going to happen, and then I'll shut up, Robert.
Yeah, no, we don't want to speculate, right, guys? We don't want to speculate.
Well, this is fun. So Nick Shivers, he's a guy that Robert knows. He's a really big producer in Portland, and he's a good friend of mine. And he shared this week in a little mastermind I belong to an email that he received from an agent. Nick, listing agent, buyer's agent, sends an email and says, well, Nick, this is what happens when you have a city that's overrun by rioters and government that doesn't want to take control. $1.8 million deal, dead in the water. The buyers come back. They're an international buyer. They come back for like a home inspection. Their car gets vandalized. They feel threatened in downtown Portland. And what do they say? We're out. And we're not coming back.
Yeah.
So it's fun. We talk about speculation. That's a real story. Nick went on to say, I'm selling all of my personal Portland investment properties. Trust me, guys, they're coming.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing.
Yep, I have agents all over the brokerage saying that they're just can't keep up with the amount of out-of-state buyers that are wanting to come in here. And so, Does anybody else, have you heard that, Susie, at the developments that you've been kind of running?
We can't keep up. We can't get any work done out there. The door never closes. They're in and out all day long. And I agree, we're completely underbuilt, and they're coming, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
and
it's crazy.
The faucet might shut off, right? Because if they can no longer get values for their homes in those states that make sense, then they can't move, right? There's going to be a day to where they no longer can actually financially make a
Right.
move across state lines, right? So at a point that'll stop, and so it'll be interesting to watch, right? These leading indicators, watching the numbers like we do. On the next call, I'll have the market statistics for June that we can have on, and I'll make sure that I get an appraiser on too to see if we can get a real detailed look as to what our outlook is. But yeah, it's been fascinating to watch. Bardell, were you going to say something?
Well, I'm just going to say and maybe this kind of coattails on what Susie had suggested, but our developers get bogged down at the plan review and the permit polling and all these other things that are a part of getting this construction moving forward. It's critically important that we have an advocacy voice beyond just voting. We need to make sure that the people that are making these decisions are also understand the tremendous economic value from home building and real estate. So yeah, do more than just vote. Show up at a planning commission meeting or a city council meeting or whatever it takes to make sure that we're advocating on behalf of not only ourselves, but our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Bardell.
One more. Hey, Robert, I'm sure everyone knows this, but there is a candidate running who has a Washington County connection, if you will. So, you know, that matters to me. That really matters to me. That
Throw it out there. Who are you voting for? If you believe in it, let's hear it.
Okay, thank you. I'm voting for Greg Hughes. I like that Iverson is with him and that I can go knock on Iverson's door anytime I want. But yeah, I've been to many of his meetings and I really like who he is. So there you have it. You asked.
Greg's texted me several dozen times, so I've heard about him. He likes to text me because I'm on the list of getting texts.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't think it needs to be a secret. So thank you for letting us know.
All right.
Who else? Anybody else got anything? Wes, you got any updates for me, man?
Nothing new. Couple new businesses looking to open up and expand. I think Zupa's is opening up this weekend. There's a couple other little restaurants opening up this weekend. So that should help with some of the tourism and people coming into town, giving them more options of places to go eat.
Are you seeing an uptick in number of leases that are coming up and the leasing inventory? Is that rising?
Leasing inventory is not going up substantially. Neither is the listing for sale inventory. But activity on existing listings, we're getting multiple offers and even getting offers on some things that historically have made a whole lot of sense. So it's still pretty good buyer activity.
Sweet. Good to hear.
This is Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
We'd love to see your face. We like video.
Well, then,
yeah,
there we go.
There we go.
Good morning. Hey, so on the construction side or just the building side, so I've been construction for about 12 years here, and coronavirus hit and all of it just completely shut down. Even the ones, there was a couple that I had going that said, well, hold on a second, I want to think about this and see if now is the time to build. Those have come back and said, yes, we want to build. But on top of that, in the last 10 days, I have taken in 12 construction applications. That's more than one a day. If I ran at that pace constantly, it would be insane. But I've been hearing a lot of it's coming, there's a lot of interest. Well, it's hitting the lending side. It's trickled that far that people have their builders, they have their lots, they have their cost breakdowns, and they've got a package and they're ready to go. So I'm definitely seeing that and feeling that the construction, there's been a peak in interest and it's turning into a lot more applications.
Yeah, awesome. Good to hear. And maybe we should get with Brett and see if I can, maybe we make a wider, because I don't have a list. It's probably poor management at Keller Williams on my part, but getting a list of the builders that are available out there. Because I think a lot of times for us agents where, we get the call, they want to build a home and they want to buy land and they want to pick a builder, having a list of builders that are really ready to go right now. I know the big, Ents and the Salisburys and the Sullivans and those big Carefree Homes builders are ready to roll. So getting that list out there to your clients and saying if building is what you want to do, let's sell your home, because it's a great time to sell an already established home to build new, and then that way we can kind of keep driving the ship forward. But that's great. Thank you, Shannon, for letting us know. Anybody else? 9:50. We're a little early, and I'm okay with that. You guys have a good week. So
Lululemon opens today too.
Oh yeah,
just a heads up. Everybody go get your guys and gals. I know you all shop at Lululemon like I do.
Dude, you gonna get some Peter Pan pants, McCrae?
Peter Pan.
I already I've got them all.
I'd like to see those, man.
They're the best slacks on.
McCrae's got a shopping cart full.
Absolutely.
It's already dialed in. I'm surprised he's not in line right now. Ryan Coates is on the call right now too. He's the marketing director for Desert Color as well. He'll be on the call on June 10th. I believe it's June 10th is that Friday. But look out for that one, and definitely invite anybody in the industry, any of the leaders to come on and share their perspective. Ryan, thanks for being on today to listen in, and we're excited to hear from you in a couple of weeks. And he'll find the mute button eventually. But I'm getting out of here, guys. You guys have a good day. Have a great weekend. We'll see ya.
See you guys.